Okay, good morning, everybody. We got change of time today. I believe my check came and my brother-in-law said that 3 or 4. I think I'll be going, so I'm gonna stay on now for a while. I don't know how long we'll stay on, but we'll stay on for a while and come back tonight when I get back. Might be 8 o'clock tonight. I know a lot of people are at work. So wait a few minutes here and get going on the Intel so people can listen while they're working. First one's going to be my governor from Michigan. So I don't want to hear her, but she said something about shooting. So we got cold, sleet, cold, and it's cold and windy a little bit. Now it's trying to clear up. But let's see what the weather says. It's showing 35 just turned. Feels like 13 degrees. Oh. So it's cold. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. YouTube, entertainment and opinions only. And we'll go to
Governor Whitner and
50
Senator
minutes.
Manchin for joining us this morning.
My
I just want to start
governor,
by saying, in the light of New Day, just how deeply appreciative we are of everyone who has come out, who has shown their support for Temple Israel, for our Jewish community. We are incredibly
I haven't heard her
for
yet,
all of our
so
local law
I'm saving
enforcement,
it.
for our Temple
Wait
Israel
on here.
security, our teachers, our staff, all of whom safely were home last night with their families. As we continue today to spend a lot of time thinking and processing and talking, we are here to have a little conversation and answer some questions, but I'm going to pass it over to Governor Whitmer. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your leadership yesterday, and how much my heart goes out to everything that you and your family and all of the families involved and the Jewish community writ large are going through. I wanted to come today for a briefing, which we just concluded, to get up to speed on where things stand. I want to thank our state and local law enforcement, the first responders, our federal partners for their swift work to keep people safe and to investigate. I want to thank Temple Israel's security personnel They were selfless in their courage, and they saved lives. These heroes threw themselves in harm's way, engaging the suspect. And let's be very clear, yes, this is a place of worship, but at the time that this attack was occurred, it was a school. 104 children, aged 5 and younger here. So I want to thank all of Temple Israel's staff who acted quickly to evacuate students and reunite families. The state of Michigan will wrap our arms around this community and support our local and federal partners every step of the way to keep people safe. I want to share prayers from my colleague, Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania. Josh Paul reached out yesterday to check in and see how people were doing. And I want Michigan's Jewish community to know that we are with you. Violence in our houses of worship and in our schools and in our daycare centers, like this, hits especially hard. Temple Israel is a pillar of the community. It's one of the largest Reformed Jewish congregations in North America, with Friday night Shabbat services attracting over 1,000 people. People celebrate bar and bat mitzvahs, weddings, and holidays here. Parents bring their children to daycare and school, and it's a place of peace, unity, light, and life. Yesterday's attack was anti-Semitism. It was hate, plain and simple. We will fight this ancient and rampant evil. We will stand together as we do it, and we will call it out. We must lower the rhetoric in this state and in this country, especially at this moment where we've seen such a rise in anti-Semitism and more attacks on the Jewish community. We must keep each other close. This community is on the edge, very understandably. We've seen a rise in attacks, especially over the last decade, especially over the last 10 months. And so it is important for us to stand up, to stand against it, and to thank the people who showed up to support the community, but also call out where we see acts of anti-Semitism, where we see threats, where we see something, how important it is to say something, and to recognize that each of us has a responsibility. People like the person that attacked this community yesterday get fomented by rhetoric that they see online and that they see on television and they hear on the radio. It radicalizes people and it endangers our fellow Michiganders. We cannot let this continue. And so each of us has a duty to take action where and how we can. And with that, I'll hand it over to Senator Slotkin, and then we'll take a couple of questions.
Thank you, Governor. And just want to reiterate, I think it's clear that if it were not for the private security and the staff at Temple Israel, and then the first responders, first on the scene, local law enforcement, if they had not all done their jobs almost perfectly, we would be talking about an immense tragedy here today with children gone. This could have been much, much worse. So I give incredible credit to law enforcement and the people who were in the room, putting themselves and their own families at risk. I think, the governor said it very, very well on the way this community has responded. It's been incredible to watch neighbors in the community here, both organizations and just regular old citizens open up their homes literally yesterday to help care for people who are fleeing from this. And this is a place that I have a very personal connection to. I feel I've spent a lot of my time growing up in and out of this temple. And I feel just an immense amount of pain, as does the rest of the community, that incidents like this even happen. And I think it's just important to be clear, as the governor said, that whether anti-Semitism is coming from the left or the right, whether it's coming from some group that you like or don't like, you have a responsibility to call it out. Because when you don't, it gives permission for people to climb that escalation, that ladder of escalation that goes from saying hateful things online to saying them in person, to graffiti, to ultimately violence. And the Jewish community suffers 10 times the number of hate crimes than any other community in this country. So it is an epidemic. And until we push back on that permission, we're going to see incidents like this continue to proliferate. The Jewish community spends over $1 billion across the country securing their houses of worship, their schools, their institutions. No community in America should be fearful of having their own kind congregate for things like education and worship. So I stand here proud of the community, but angry that we even are put in this position. Thankful to law enforcement, but asking the average citizen out there, if you have a friend, a colleague, coworkers who are using anti-Semitism in their daily life and feel like it's just normal, please call that out wherever you see it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Morshay. I'm the Township Supervisor here in West Bloomfield. For those of you unfamiliar with township government in Michigan, my position is like the mayor of the city, elected by the voters, but I'll stop the civics lesson. I think it's fair to say that none of us went to bed Wednesday expecting to wake up Thursday events. But thanks to the preparation and training of Temple Israel security team and the West Bloomfield Police Department, the unexpected did not turn into tragedy. Yesterday's incident at Temple Israel is deeply concerning for everyone in West Bloomfield, Michigan, across the country, as well as Jews everywhere. I live in West Bloomfield. My wife and I are members of Temple Israel, so I have a keen understanding of the effects on the community. We are thankful for the courage and professionalism of our first responders and our partner agencies who move to protect lives and work towards stabilizing the scene. Our thoughts are with all members of Temple Israel and their families. No community should ever feel unsafe gathering in a house of worship or sending their children to school. I want to thank all the officials, colleagues, and members of the public who've reached out to me in solidarity. I would also like to thank the Shenandoah Country Club for hosting the Operations Center and being the site where the preschoolers and parents were reunited. Shenandoah is a wonderful community partner, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart. We'll continue to work closely with law enforcement and community leaders as more information comes available. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Happy to open it up for a few questions. Yes.
Good morning, Shante Castor at Local 4. Is there any indication that the suspect may have expressed his intent or motives, either whether online or to a loved one, what he had planned to do yesterday?
I appreciate the importance of your question. I am not the appropriate person to answer that. We'll have to defer to the FBI as there's an ongoing investigation. Yeah, sure.
Governor, do you think this happened because of the conflict in Iran?
I'm not putting my theories into the press is not going to help an investigation, so I'm going to refrain from that. I do know that we have seen a rise in anti-Semitism. We have seen it over many years, predating the conflict, but certainly it is at a historic high, and I worry that that will continue. And so it's why I'm calling on anyone with a platform to be very responsible with their rhetoric, not to identify or target the Jewish community. That is anti-Semitism writ large, and I don't think that any of us should permit or allow that to stand. And that's why I'm asking people to turn down the rhetoric.
Governor, on that note, Jocelyn and Prosecutor Detroit, we have a very diverse community, Jewish, Arab, and so on and so on. When it comes to lowering the temperature, because we talk to each other, we work together, we build families amongst each other, what's the message you can deliver to help lower the temperature?
I think I'm trying to deliver that message right now that we are Michiganders. This was a school. These are
4 minutes.
0 to 5-year-olds that were targeted yesterday, 104. My friend Brian said this could have looked a lot more like Sandy Hook, right? Like, let's not lose sight of that. This is not a political moment. This is not a political debate. This is targeting babies who are Jewish. That's anti-Semitism at its absolute worst. And that's why we cannot lose sight of that, the importance of keeping everyone in Michigan safe by being responsible in how we talk about issues and how we treat one another.
Governor,
One last
before-
question, one last question.
Are members of the Jewish community in Michigan safe right now to be going to synagogue?
You know what, I will defer to Stephen, but I can tell you that I believe that there are so many wonderful people who are planning to have Shabbat services and dinner this evening. I will work my hardest to make sure that we're supplementing efforts to keep people safe. At the same time, in combination with that, turning down the rhetoric to keep these instances from happening, being able to respond when they do, but keeping them from happening in the first place is a part of our duty and our goal. Do you want to address that?
I would simply say that
Sorry.
private security is ready, and our partners in law enforcement, both state, local, and federal, are ready to do it, and we will be there. Like I said yesterday, we will continue to live proud Jewish lives. We will come back stronger, and we will be there tonight on Shabbat services and tomorrow morning. That will not stop. That will not end. No matter how much they try, that will not stop us.
Senator Scott, John Wise, can you give us, the Department of Homeland Security is not fully funded right now. Do you fear that leaves us less prepared for instance like the should be?
Yeah, I would say the department, because they are essential workers, they have been, at work. Certainly in Michigan, we have a ton of DHS folks, the CBP, and so they are on the call and they are doing their jobs. Certainly, we need to fund the Department of Homeland Security, and we need, in my view, to cut away all the conversation on ICE, which is its own conversation, from all the core missions of the Department of Homeland Security. But they're essential, they're on the job, they're working today.
A question.
Go ahead, one last one.
Seeing Jake Schaff, Civic Center TV, seeing the response from West Bloomfield and the resilience of our law enforcement, what do you think this showcases to the state of Michigan and the rest of the United States?
Well, I'll just say it was incredible how the teachers and the staff, how the local law enforcement, federal agencies, state agencies all worked together quickly, acted selflessly. I know they're trained to do that, and they don't even like it when you thank them for doing their jobs, but it's incredible to see people run to the fire to help kids get out, and everyone got home last night. There are a couple people, or a number of people, that had to go to the hospital for smoke inhalation, and will continue to improve. But I think that it was amazing to see that they were able to keep everyone safe at the end of the day. And it should be a source of pride. It should also be a moment of reflection where we all ask ourselves, why does this happen in this country? I thank you all. Thank you all. Take care, stay safe, and should you have questions, more specific questions, please direct them to FBI and law enforcement. Thank you so much.
Okay, that was my governor, Michigan, from yesterday. Hey, Tim, I said at the beginning, I think my check came and my brother-in-law was working till 3 or 4, so came on now and go a few hours, and I might have a late one tonight because I might be busy around evening time. So my second show will be tonight. The weather's starting to come out now. The sun's coming out. So this is change of plans. I'm glad my check finally came, but can't go until later. So that was the first video. Gary. So we got Trisha videos. She got 4 short ones, like 10 minutes. But I'm going to do Pete's speech from this morning. So this is an important one. Shoot. I know a lot of people are at work right now. minutes on this one.
The tragic loss of our 135 refueling aircraft yesterday. The incident occurred over friendly territory in western Iraq while the crew was on a combat mission. And again, was not the result, as CENTCOM has said, was not the result of hostile or friendly fire. We're still treating this as an active rescue and recovery operation. As CENTCOM announced this morning, 4 airmen have been recovered, and the Air Force and U.S. Central Command will provide updates as information becomes available. Please keep these brave airmen, their families, friends, and units in your thoughts in the coming hours and days. Our service members make an incredible sacrifice to go forward and do the things that the nation asks of them. It's a reminder of the true cost of the dedication and commitment of the Joint Force. We're also aware of a fire on board the USS Gerald R. Ford. We're thinking about the crew there who are injured in the fire. We believe and hope that everyone will be okay, and we're grateful for that. And for any further questions on that, we'd refer you to NAVCENT or to the Navy. This morning, we enter the 13th day of Operation Epic Fury, and we continue to make progress towards our military objectives. As the Secretary said, today will be our heaviest day of kinetic fires across the operating area. CENTCOM continues to attack ballistic missile and drone capabilities so that they are no longer a threat to U.S. forces, our bases, or our partners. They're continuing to destroy the Iranian Navy to ensure freedom of navigation. And this means going after Iran's mine-laying capability and destroying their ability to attack commercial vessels. And we're targeting their defense industrial base so they cannot rebuild the capabilities that can harm America's interests or our partners in the future. As Admiral Cooper said in his update on Wednesday, Iranian combat power continues to decline as a result of the continued strikes, as the Secretary talked about. We've attacked over 6,000 targets, and our strike packages continue to launch every hour, and we've maintained an unprecedented number of sorties up overhead of Iran. CENTCOM is now persistently over the enemy, and a result, we've seen a reduction in missile and one-way attack fires, as the Secretary said. In less than 2 weeks, we've rendered the Iranian Navy combat ineffective and continue to attack naval vessels, including all of their Soleimani-class warships, which were armed with anti-ship missiles and anti-aircraft weapons. We've made progress, but Iran still has the capability to harm friendly forces and commercial shipping. And our work on this effort continues. But I want to make something clear. The only thing preventing commercial traffic and flow through the straits right now, which there is some through the straits, is Iran. They are the belligerents here holding the straits closed, although there is some traffic moving through there. We've made it a priority to target Iran's mine-laying enterprise, their mine layers, the naval bases and depots, in addition to the missiles that could influence the straits. And CENTCOM continues to attack those efforts. And we continue to make progress on the industrial base to include factories, weapons, warehouses that are stored in, and we will continue to do so in the coming days, especially today. Now, as I often do, I want to share a little bit about our incredible joint force. Today, I'm going to talk about our incredible artillery force comprised of American soldiers and Marines who've been sinking ships, missile systems or ATACMS, precision strike missiles or PRISMs, and high mobility rocket systems or HIMARS. From outside Iran, our Army and Marine artillerymen are hitting sites that Iran relies on to project power beyond their borders and protect our deployed. In just the first 13 days of this operation, our artillery forces have made history. They fired the first precision strike missiles ever used in combat, reaching deep into enemy territory. They've used Army ATACMS to sink multiple ships, including a submarine, and they've done all of this with the precision and determination that comes from relentless training and trust in each other and in their weapon systems. Yesterday, I had the incredible honor and privilege of speaking with some of our young soldiers from the 3rd Battalion, 27th Field Artillery Regiment out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the unit and the crew that fired the first precision strike missiles. The soldiers I met came from all over this great country: New York, Texas, Delaware, California.
What happens in 2 more weeks?
One had been in the Army only 6 months and been in the unit for 2 months and was already deployed. He was the youngest at 20, but you would not know it from the way that they talked about their mission. The others were 22 and 28 years old. They spoke with a sense of calm pride, purpose, and clarity that tells you clearly they understand the weight of what they're doing and the people who depend on them. I asked them to walk me through a fire mission. I asked not just what they do, but what they feel, especially those first crew members on this particular mission. These soldiers basically.
Right, that's the
live
press
in these
conference being held by the
very
United States as far as this entire latest development is concerned. The new leader
not
of
over.
Iran being, releasing his first statement with Pete Hegseth saying that he's injured and questioning why he did not come physically on camera and deliver his first statement instead of putting out a written statement and an audio playing out on Iranian state media. Of course,
You
General
think
Dan
so?
came giving out more details of the battleground operations and
I
the
hope so.
injuries that have taken place on Gerald R. Ford as far as that fire erupting on that particular carrier group is concerned. We'll keep getting you details on that. Let's move on and get you other updates.
flawless execution.
Okay, that was a 6-minute one. I thought Pete was going to speak on that one. So I got a 3-minute one. I got some photos I want to read. One from Canada, and then 2 or 3 others photo shots of what's weird about. I want to see what you guys think when I show the photos. See if you guys can recognize everything. But we'll see what I got here at the bottom here. All right, we'll do this one. Yeah. All right, here we go. So what do you guys think in this photo? What do you guys see there? Terry? Tim? Oh, all right. You're awake. You're awake. That's the first one. I got the yesterday's XT report coming up to you here. I got to do 2 sides on this photo. This is wicked. I wonder if everybody's awake on this photo shot. Oh. What do we see here? He's looking at the tie. I think. I don't know what they circled. Today's date's the 13th, you guys. Day 13. That's odd. Okay, I thought those photos were interesting to see. Now I'm gonna do some reading here. Canada has a larger one. Let's set the record straight on illegal immigrants. The majority of conservatives denounce illegal immigrational that is happening now in Canada in huge numbers. Liberals are in favor of an open door policy for illegal immigrants into Canada. When conservatives stand up for the country, our country, we are standing up to our laws and our security for our nation. Conservatives are not Nazis or racists. This is what the liberals want everyone to believe, to implement their disastrous open border agenda. And you see how that is working in Europe. This is the furthest from the truth. More immigration came to Canada under the Stephen Harper than any other prime minister, but they came illegally. Let's look at the facts, Canada, and not denounce people for wanting to have a rally about security borders. It's about safety for our country. I gotta see if I can get that. Country, whatever that bottom part says there. But that's a statement for Canada there. Tell me I'm wrong, but Congress should be the first to lose their paycheck during a shutdown. I agree, but it won't happen. Democrats have one plan, hope Trump fails, that it. Their only path back to power is betting against America's success. No real vision, no actual leadership, just waiting and praying for the country to lose. Inspiring stuff. Let's see what. Okay, that's. I believe that's all the photos and statements I'm going to read. So the next short video, then I'm going to do the X2 report from yesterday.
Memorials.
The other, I've been to the main ones on Ground Zero.
There's 9/11 memorials all over the country. This might be a JT exclusive, guys. I don't think anybody's ever put this together in a video except for your boy over here. Let's check this out. All right. First of all, I'll just set it up right there. You see what you're looking at right there. That's a steel beam from the World Trade Centers stuck through a globe, and this is over at NORAD. But now I'm going to just kind of show you a little montage of all these things all around the country. Of course, I had to put the spooky music in. Sorry, guys. This is this one. I mean, I want to say it looks like a cigarette butt or a cigar. There's another beam. So this is all around the United States. Is beams from the World Trade Centers displayed in some kind of grotesque fashion where they're all just bent up, rusted, destroyed looking. Tell me that honors somebody. I don't think that it does. I mean, like, is anybody else in the chat? What do you guys think? Do you guys think this looks like this is... Have you ever seen these, Jeremy?
I have not.
So these things are all over the country. Look, I mean, they're literally just beams that are just destroyed. And they're just... I mean, look at that. So is that supposed to be some honor, some victim in 9/11? These are all over the country. Look at that.
Mary.
There's the tuning fork.
Yeah. I mean, so look at that. On a pentagram. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are all over the place. I mean, like, what?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those? See those beams like this? This last one's pretty crazy looking.
Jeez.
I mean, yeah. So, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, what is that? Does that honor anyone?
I think the only thing it does is honor the evil of their ritual by continually tricking an unsuspecting and naive public to pay homage to something they don't even understand.
Like, when I look at that, it's funny. For one, it looks like, you know, it's what is it, a Pentagon? What I see right there, to me, it looks like somebody put a cigar out in an ashtray. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So, like, when you see that, I mean, look how awkwardly it's put in there. It's like, it looks like trash. It is trash. It's this burn up steel, and it's displayed like, to me, it reminds me of, like, you hear stories about Braveheart, where they say, like, when William Wallace was killed, they drew and quartered him, and they took different parts of him and they took him across the empire of England or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's what this looks like. This is the victor destroyed this monument, and then they displayed all the wreckage all around the country. This does not honor anyone.
So I'm not sure about how interesting that was. X2 report from yesterday, you guys, about 20-something minutes. $26 minutes.
Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and it's episode 3859 AM. Today's date is March 12th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Trump Goes After Hostile Oil Nations, Central Bank Push Biden Fake Economy, Tariff System Works. Central banks cause inflation, and that is a threat to you, your savings account, your retirement. Ask yourself an honest question. Does your dollar go as far as it did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even last year? So what does the next decade look like for you? and your savings. If your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's time to rethink your strategy. Gold has kept up with inflation and in many periods outpaced it. My friends at Noble Gold Investment specialize in helping people protect their wealth with physical gold and silver. Whether you're rolling over an IRA or making a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process and makes it very simple. No pressure, just education and experience. Right now, all new qualified accounts will receive a free 1/10 of an ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. Visit x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com and discover how easy it is to protect your financial future. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum. To make their green new scam work, they need the control of energy. And that is what Trump is doing out in the Middle East right now. Because again, who is truly in control of the energy? And there are hostile individuals that are trying to actually keep the oil price up very, very high. And we could see Trump now is battling these people. Because you have to remember, if the deep state, the central bankers are trying to introduce the Green New scam, they need to do what? They need to control the oil. They've been controlling the oil for a very long time. Trump now is removing that control from them. And you could see with everything that Trump is doing right now, he's building the new parallel economic system, and the control of energy is key. Yes, he built the parallel economic system in this country, which is the tariff system. Now you can see that he is now preparing and getting ready to control the energy across the globe. And this needs to be done because, once again, if we're going to move forward with the golden age, we can't have other entities controlling the energy. And this is exactly what Trump is doing. And if you really look at it, you could see that everything that he's putting into place is actually working. Yes, it does take time for these things to work. Remember, we've been in a central bank illusionary economy since 1971. Actually, if you go back to 1913, that's when it was established. We became the real reserve currency right after World War II. And then 1971, we went full fiat, which means the central bank system pretty much took over everything. And then in 2008, 2009, during that financial crisis, they took over the interest rates, they took over the stock market, they took over, I think, everything that we see today. And basically, they've been running a huge scam ever since. And when you really look at it, you could see that every step of the way, they're trying to battle Trump and try to stop Trump every step of the way, but it's not working. They're losing ground, and it's getting worse and worse for them as time goes on. And this is why they have introduced Biden/Obama's economy. Now, remember, when Trump came into office, what did Biden say? I'm handing Trump the best economy ever, strong economy. Now we have the Democrats repeating this message, and you have to ask yourself a simple question. Why are they doing this? Because once again, we know the job numbers are fake. We know inflation is fake. We know the GDP numbers that they were creating were fake. All the calculations are pretty much manipulated. That's why they go back and they continually revise the numbers. And now with the job numbers, that's exactly what they're doing. Think about what they did. They created millions of fake jobs, and now they're going back and revising the numbers, making it look like Trump is the one who created the fake economic system. Same thing with inflation. People are still feeling the repercussions of the inflation that Biden/Obama have caused since that time, because you have to remember, it's cumulative. Just because he brought it back to 3% doesn't mean it was at 3%. I'm talking about Biden. It means all that inflation that he's created stays. Even when Trump brings it down to 3, to 2, to 1, it makes no difference because that
Hey, Kev. No, it's just my check came, I believe, today, and I'll probably have to go out about 3 or 4 with my brother-in-law, so I'm going to stay on till about, get my 3 hours in now, and then we'll have a late one tonight around 7 or 8. So, yeah, I've been on for a little bit.
inflation stays. The only way to get rid of it, number one, is to pay it back, or you can mitigate it by lowering energy costs. You can mitigate it by removing the taxes. You can mitigate it by bringing manufacturers back to this country. Can you completely and utterly get rid of it? Absolutely not. And I do believe Trump right now is in the process of mitigating it. And yes, we're involved in a mission out in Iran because Trump is truly battling the oil tycoons, those people that have been in control of the system for a very long time. And he's taking that control away from them. And this is why he's releasing the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Remember, Biden released it during his time in the White House, but this was to manage the price of oil because he was pushing the Green New scam. Trump is releasing the Strategic Petroleum Reserve because we are now battling those hostile forces that are trying to push oil prices up. It's very, very different. Plus, at the same time, what is Trump doing? He has made the country energy independent. He's allowing more and more oil companies to drill like we've never seen before, which is going to counter everything that they're doing right now. And when you look at the whole Green New scam, you can see that it would be a complete and utter disaster if we went to wind and solar. Number one, all you got to do is look at California and look at Germany. You could see it's a disaster there. They're waking up and they're figuring that out. Companies are waking up. They're figuring it out. The people in the country of Germany, the people out in California, they're waking up. They're figuring it out. And when you look at Indiana, they had a whole solar farm in Wheatvale, Indiana, and it was destroyed by severe storms, including tornadoes. It moved through the area and just decimated the solar panels. So think about this. If we were dependent on solar right now, especially in that area, the entire area would have been destroyed. It's not like, oh, we have a couple of down wires, we got to put the wires back up, or something else occurred. The entire area was destroyed, which means there's no energy whatsoever. Yes, the batteries might have some life in them, but that's not going to last too long. And once again, you could see that this is not a good way to go. But you have to remember, the deep state, the central bankers, they really didn't care about if you had energy or not, because they weren't going to be using the same exact energy. They were going to be using oil. They were going to be using nuclear. They were going to be using everything else. And you, the serf, were going to use wind and solar. And now people are starting to really wake up and see that this is not a good way to go. Plus, with solar and wind, we could not have manufacturing in this country, just like Germany's figuring that one out, because they went completely solar, wind, mostly wind. They got rid of their coal-fired plants. They got rid of their nuclear power plants. And they realized, hey, this was the wrong direction. Why were we doing this? This makes no sense whatsoever. While we were doing that, China was ramping up on nuclear, on coal, and everything else. So I think Mertz started to realize this when he took a trip down to China, and he started to wake up and smell the coffee. And he started to realize, hey, we're heading in the wrong direction. He even mentioned it at the World Economic Forum that we're going in a completely wrong direction. And now you could see with Ursula von der Leyen, they have to backtrack. There's no choice but to backtrack because the entire world is not moving in the direction they thought it was going to move. Because again,
look at the double extra large wife. That was the phrase I heard from my former college friend the day before my wedding. I cried.
As the United States builds up its manufacturing plants, Europe is going to be left in the dust. See, the only way this was going to work was to have Europe and the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all on the same page. If you go back to, let's say, COVID, for example, yes, Australia, New Zealand, the EU nations, UK, they could all push the vaccine passport. But if the United States is not on board and the United States heads in a different direction, how is that going to look? The same thing's happening right now. That's why they're backtracking, because again, the United States is not heading in the direction that they're heading. And the United States would outpace them as time went on. And the people of Europe would start to realize, wait a minute, they're using oil, they're using nuclear power plants, or even compact fusion reactors. They're not using wind, they're not using solar, and they have an incredible manufacturing force. And we're sitting here with wind and solar, and we barely have power, and the manufacturing plants are leaving our countries. That's what they would have experienced. And now you could see everything is about to change.
Yay.
And yes, Trump is now using the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to counter the entities that are trying to push the oil prices up because of this Iran mission. And again, Congress has not declared it a war, so it's a mission. But again, who's Trump really battling? Is he battling Iran? Or is he battling those people in London and other entities? Really think about that for a second. Central banks cause inflation, and that is a threat to you, your savings account, your retirement. Ask yourself an honest question. Does your dollar go as far as it did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even last year? So what does the next decade look like for you and your savings? If your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's time to rethink your strategy. Gold has kept up with inflation and in many periods outpaced it. My friends at Noble Gold Investment specialize in helping people protect their wealth with physical gold and silver. Whether you're rolling over an IRA or making a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process and makes it very simple. No pressure, just education and experience. Right now, all new qualified accounts will receive a free 1/10 of an ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. Visit x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com and discover how easy it is to protect your financial future. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. But Peter Sayon, PhD, put this out and said, the Strategic Petroleum Reserves was built so we'd never be caught flat-footed by a Middle East war. It took 30 years to fill. Then Biden drained it by half to buy an election. And that's exactly what he did, because we have to remember they were pushing the whole Green New scam, which was driving energy costs sky high, and he had to mitigate the problem. And Trump is not trying to mitigate the problem. We have the ability to pump oil like crazy. What he's doing, he's using it to counter what the deep state, what the central bankers, what these entities are trying to do. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: the United States is the largest oil producer in the world by far. So when oil prices go up, we make a lot of money. But of far greater interest and importance to me as president is stopping an evil empire, Iran, from having nuclear weapons and destroying the Middle East and indeed the world. I won't ever let that happen. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Letting you know, yes, oil prices are going to go up a little bit. And again, I think they went up way too much. I think basically certain individuals, maybe within the stations or oil producers, whoever they are, they were gouging the prices because, again, this was oil that was already paid for. There was no reason for the prices to go up as of yet. Plus, if we're producing the oil and we don't even get the oil from Iran, again, there was no reason for oil to go up. And Trump now is countering all of this by releasing the Strategic Petroleum Reserves. And U.S. Energy Secretary Wright says the release of the Strategic Petroleum Reserves is partly to ensure near-term oil supplies to Asia. Yes, to counter everything the deep state central bankers are trying to do. And once again, we're prepared and ready to unlock all this oil. Plus, since we have this mission going on in Iran, Trump can make the oil part of it a national security issue and then issue directives to actually drill in places where the deep state players, the central bankers, tried to stop us. Bull Theory put this out and said, Trump to use war powers to unlock 30 billion barrels of oil trapped off the California coast. He's invoking a Cold War law to bypass state rules so a Texas company can restart a massive oil field that has been shut down for years. California is sitting on a massive oil deposit that could produce 50,000 barrels a day, enough to secure the U.S. oil supply. So, yes, there's a lot of oil, and the reliable estimates peg the remaining recoverable oil at around 190 million barrels, which represents about 80% of untapped Pacific reserves. So basically, yes, this could be used. Plus, Trump can use the national security threat against other states that have stopped oil producers, and Trump can now reverse all of this and have them start pumping oil once again, which means this would add to the oil supply here in this country. So it looks like everything is about to change, and Trump now, by using what's going on in Iran, he's bypassing everything the states have put into place, everything the central bankers have put into place, the green people have put in place, and now he's overriding this, bypassing pretty much everything. So we're going to see a lot of oil produced in this country, and it's going to continue on because, again, he's going to say it's a national security threat of what is going on in the Middle East. Now, think about it. As we move towards the midterms, we know that the deep state, the Ds, they're going to have to try to counter everything that Trump is doing. And once again, they're trying to make the case that Biden's Obama handed off a very strong economy to Trump. They knew it was fake. They knew they manipulated the job numbers. They knew they manipulated the inflation numbers because all the calculations are manipulated. They know they manipulated the GDP numbers, but now they're building that narrative because they believe that this is the right time. They did this during COVID, during the 2020 presidential elections, where they tried to actually destroy the economy. Because again, they knew the economy was doing very well. They knew the economy was the number one issue. And now they're using the same exact tactic at this point in time. But you have to remember, Trump has a different weapon this time. He has the parallel economic system. He has tariffs. But the Vigilant Fox put this out and said, James Carville rewrites history and says that Biden economy was a golden age. In August of 2024, The Economist said that the U.S. economy was the envy of the world. Jamie Dimon said it was the strongest economy he had ever seen. It's turning into a catastrophe. They keep revising the job numbers. According to Carville, the Biden economy was the envy of the world just 3 months before the election. On election day, the American people said, my wallet's hurt, which is exactly why they didn't vote for Kamala Harris. And now they're trying to make and convince everyone that, hey, if you go back to Biden's time, the economy was actually fantastic. But again, it never was. And who was assisting the Biden/Obama administration at the time? It was the Federal Reserve. They were completely and utterly on board with all of this. And you could see the Federal Reserve, what did they do? They brought the interest rates high, then they dropped them right before the election, even though we were nowhere near the target inflation number. We're way higher than it has ever been. But they decided to help Biden out. Now, when Trump brings the inflation number to 2.5 to 2.3 to 2, they say there's a problem because all of a sudden inflation might shoot up. Well, when it reached 3.5% under Biden and it was at 9, they weren't worried about inflation shooting up during that period of time. That should tell you everything you need to know. And think about it. Inflation right now is around 2.4% if you use the Fed calculation. So basically, there's no tariff-driven inflation. There's no spike. There's absolutely nothing. So once again, everything that the Fed has been talking about has turned out to be fake, phony, and false. Peter Sion, PhD, put this out and said, Jerome Powell continues punishing Trump and American workers for Joe Biden's inflation. Because what would happen if the Fed should lower the rates to 2% to 1%? The economy would take off. And everything the Fed has been talking about would turn out to be fake, phony, and false, just like everything else they said. And once again, they are the problem. But think about it. What Trump is doing right now, he's
burning, tingling, numb, aging feet. This new 3-in-1 massager targets all the root causes.
Putting all the pieces together. He's creating manufacturing jobs. He's going to different states and saying, listen, we're going to be creating jobs here like crazy. We're bringing industry back. And if you look at Ohio, he's doing exactly that there. He put this out on Truth. He said the following: I'm on my way to the great state of Ohio, which I loved, and I won big 3 times. So to visit Thermo Fisher, a pharmaceutical manufacturing company that is investing $2 billion in U.S. manufacturing and bringing great paying jobs back to Ohio from overseas. Thermo Fisher is doing this because of my America First trade policies, most specifically tariffs, which charge other countries to access to our markets while protecting our import industry and strengthening our supply chains. Thanks to my most favored nation deals, prescription drugs prices are coming down by a lot. And I've asked Congress to codify these policies. After that, I will be heading to the wonderful Commonwealth of Kentucky. See you soon. And that's what he's doing right now. He's bringing all these manufacturers back to the United States. And as the manufacturing plants are built, it's going to create a lot of construction jobs. As he lowers the interest rates, it's going to allow them to build these places cheaply with cheap interest rates. And once these manufacturing plants are built, you're going to see a lot of jobs all of a sudden come into existence. And now with the numbers being revised, this is going to be actually pretty good. I know the deep state players and the Biden administration and the rest have been trying to use this to their advantage. But actually what's going to happen is that as the numbers are revised and the job numbers are brought down and Trump starts to build, and I'm talking about because of all these people investing in the country and all these manufacturers coming back to this country, as the plants start the construction, all of a sudden from these low job numbers, you're going to see the job numbers start to shoot up you're going to see a lot of construction jobs. Once the plants are completed, you're going to see other jobs come online. And remember, when you're building a plant, you need tar, you need copper piping, you need plumbers, you need electrical, you need copper, you need furniture, you need decoration, you need pretty much everything. And you're going to see these businesses really start to boom. So yes, they can play with the numbers. They can try to convince you at this point in time that Trump is losing jobs, but all of a sudden you're going to start to see it switch around. Plus, he's not losing jobs. These are all fake jobs that they're now revising and actually showing you that Biden has never created any of these jobs, because again, it's going backwards in time, and it's showing you that the jobs are absolutely fake. And it's just like the inflation. They basically took the inflation calculation and said, hey, we're only going to count the inflation for this point in time. We don't care about the other 50 something years because that just doesn't count. But it does count, because if we're truly going to go back to 2% inflation, then prices would be 2% above 1971 prices when we came off the gold standard. Are they? No, they're not. That should tell you everything you need to know. Soon will they? Absolutely. And you can see the Trump administration, they're launching a process to replace tariffs that were struck down by the Supreme Court. And yes, they're going to be using other tariff statutes where they can use this, or statute laws, that they can use this to counter everything the Supreme Court has done. Actually, the Supreme Court, they've given Trump a path, and he's going to follow this path because he was told through the Supreme Court, through the dissent, that he can use other laws to implement tariffs because they're time tested. They were passed by Congress. And there's no judge that can actually stop them. So even if they're trying to force Trump to pay it all back, if Trump raises the tariffs to 10 to 15% and is charging these people 10 to 15%, he could just say, listen, okay, you know what I'll do? This month I'll skip, and that's your payback. Because he's already collected that money. So now if he skips a month saying, okay, you don't owe this amount, we'll just skip it. He could do that. Not a real big deal, is it? So in the end, no matter what the deep state, what the central bankers tried to do, it is completely and utterly failed. And what's very interesting is that companies now are starting to see the benefits of the tariffs. Remember, the tariffs benefit the people. The tariffs benefit the manufacturers in this country. The tariffs benefit the country as a whole. Tariffs do not benefit the manufacturers that are in other countries. The tariffs do not benefit other countries. The tariffs do not benefit the central bank. And that's what they hate. But you could see that these tariffs are totally working for manufacturers in this country. Eric Doherty put this out and said, an incredible tariff win for President Trump. An aluminum plant in South Carolina just surged jobs for Americans that pay $125,000 per year. Century Aluminum CEO Jesse Gary, the tariffs are working. The plan is going back to 100% manufacturing capacity. And again, this is what these are created to do. They're created to keep the jobs in this country. They're created to force manufacturers from leaving this country, or if manufacturers are out of this country, they're being forced back to this country. And it's creating jobs like we've never seen before in this country. That's what the tariffs are for. Yes, it also brings in currency from the outside to fund the government. Because again, the central bank system is a debt-based system. The central bank system takes from you. Trump is giving to you. It's the opposite of what you've been experiencing for most likely your entire life. Most likely everyone's entire life. I mean, if people, I don't think anyone's alive before 1913, but once again, those people that have been living, those people that have been working their entire lives, they've been trapped in the central bank illusionary economy. Trump is bringing us back to a time before that. And most of the people of this country have never, ever seen it or experienced it. And now the people are going to experience it. And you can see that all the pieces now are coming together, and it's getting better and better. And you're going to see it take off, because once Trump has control of the energy via the Middle East, and you have to remember what's going on there, the entities out in the Middle East, they always want a war scenario. They want that area to be unstable because that's where they make their money. That's how they can control what's going through the Strait of Hormuz. That's how they control everything. So Trump now is removing all of that. And once he does, and he gains control of the Strait of Hormuz and has peace in the region, all of a sudden, everything changes. And you're going to see oil drop like a rock. And you're going to see everything change because remember, cheaper the energy, that mitigates the inflation, that helps the manufacturers, that helps the world. And I do believe this is what Trump is doing. He's about to change everything for the better. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.
Okay, XT report. No Billy Bean yet, so Trisha has a lot of videos. No, the other ones are not out yet, so I got some other ones we'll play. Her first one just came out recently, I think. 2-minute one.
Money is that it's going to fraudsters, for goodness sakes. Yeah, that's what we've discovered. $19 billion in the state of Minnesota, possibly $80 billion in California. You're talking about fraud in Ohio. You're talking about fraud in Maine, fraud in New York, fraud in Massachusetts. Vesant is now running a program, a whistleblower program, so that they all tattle on one another.
We will find out who's done this. We are going to put in effect a whistleblower program. And my sense is that the rats will turn on each other. Like it's like the scorpion. It's in their nature.
Ouch. So, New York, get ready. Get ready for some probes. Ilhan's already dealing with them. Ilhan Omar is under investigation. Well, I think they might want to consider her alliances and allegiances and whether or not she's really loyal to the United States, because I think we have every reason to be concerned about possible traitors within. But this may all relate back together, because if they're able to prove out that somehow the money that she was possibly allegedly getting for these fraudsters via the $250 million Feeding Our Future program, if any of that money was going back to terror organizations, and that's what the thought is, right? Because it was going through the Hawala system, and Hawala always takes its cut. The terror team always takes its cut. So Treasury is looking at how much of that was going overseas to these terror organizations. And if it turns out the biggest funder of Al-Shabaab, the terror organization in Somalia, is actually the Minnesota taxpayer and the U.S. taxpayer, we're going to have some problems. And you know what, Ilhan Omar, you're going to have some problems. Because the question is whether or not you and Mr. Timmy are clean or not. I do realize she thinks that somehow anytime we say any of this is just because of who she is and the color of her skin. I'm here to tell her it's not. We don't tolerate fraud of any kind from anyone, period, end of story. And don't tell me that I can't do this story just because you are from Somalia. I'm not having it.
There is a lot of hate in this country for Muslims. There's a lot of hate in this country for Black people, especially Black women. And there is a lot of hate, severe hate for immigrants. And so I fit them all.
Thank you.
Okay. Twelve minutes on this one.
Make some of that.
Moment where you're asking yourself how you can.
Well, new calls today to deport Zohran Mamdani based over the belief that he may have lied on his citizenship forms. In fact, it's becoming a big deal. So this first came about over the summer. We reported on it back then. But the reason it's being sort of focused on in this moment, and I think is worth paying a lot of attention to, Pam Bondi, I'm looking at you, is because of the concerns that he may not be playing for our team. He may not be on America's side. He may be on Iran's side, okay? And we have only to look at his rap music and the lyrics of the rap music that seem to show allegiance to terror organizations, etc. But I don't even need to go there. Let me just start with this. The concern, oh, well, there's this too. I was going to show you his form for his citizenship, but before we get to that, there's this one. So back in 2015, he went on and on and on and on. He was all upset, and he let out a whole series of tweets. He was all upset because the FBI was investigating a guy who was a known terrorist, right? for lack of a better word, okay? So Mamdani was upset. He's like, how dare you? How dare you look into his personal life? Why no proper interrogation of what it means for FBI to have conducted extensive survey into al-Awlaqi's private life? Al-Awlaqi was killed in a U.S. drone strike in Yemen in 2011, 7 years after he had moved to the country to join the terror group. But apparently before moving to Yemen, al-Awlaqi presided over a Virginia mosque where 3 of the 9/11 hijackers worshipped. He was also linked to, I'm going to just, mess up this name, but we'll give it a shot. Umar Farouk Abdulmatab, the so-called underwear bomber who tried to bomb a plane above Detroit on Christmas Day in 2009. So Mamdani, in a series of tweets, is all upset because he thinks the FBI has somehow infringed on this guy, this terrorist's rights. So that's 2015. He didn't apply for citizenship here in the United States until 2018. So somebody did not do their due diligence. Okay, in 2018, Trump was in office, so it was his team. Somebody in his team did not do their due diligence on this guy.
10 minutes on, 12 minutes.
And I think that if you go back and look at some of the immigration records, you might find that Mamdani didn't admit to some of the things that he needed to and should have admitted to. So you fill out this form. You see, when you're trying to get citizenship here in the U.S., this is an N400 U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services form. And one of the questions is, and I quote, have you ever been a member of or been associated with a group, association, foundation, party, club, society, or organization that communicates or advocates communism? We get a little mess up in that one, but or any other form of totalitarian government? If yes, you know what? You got to explain what you did. Well, it's believed that he did not say yes. It's believed that he just ignored that. The problem is he was actually part of a problematic organization. The Democrat Socialist Association, the DSA. That's an organization that's actually backed by that guy. We've talked about him before, Neville Singman, who's basically the guy who is bankrolled out of China, and he bankrolls this organization, and they are an anti-US, anti-Western communist group. So Mamdani is a part of that, but he never says anything on his application. This is a big issue, not to mention the rap lyrics that supported terrorist activities, the tweets from 2015 that I was just talking about, supporting an actual terrorist. I mean, you got something to go on there, and Andy Ogles knows it. So he wrote a letter at the end of June begging Pam Bondi. I realize, I know she's got a lot on her plate. I empathize with that, but this is the big leagues. We got a lot going on, and they need somebody to look into this. Janine Pirro, where are you when we need you? Okay. I don't know if she can do it because it's DC, but somebody ought to be looking into this, because if you go back and you see these records and he did not actually say, hey, I'm part of this anti-US group.
We have a troll in here.
Like you had to check that box. And if you didn't check that box, then you lied on your documentation. What have we talked about here? Guess what? You lie on that documentation, they can rescind your citizenship. They absolutely 100% positively can. And so Randy Fine, I played some sound for you the other day saying we need to deport him. We need to take away his citizenship. This is the congressman from Florida. And I thought, well, that could be hard. That could be a tall order. And I was thinking, I had forgotten that Mamdani was actually just recently made a citizen. For some reason, I was thinking that because he, was here as a kid, that maybe he was, naturalized as a kid alongside his parents or something. And nope, I was wrong. He just was naturalized in 2018. So yeah, we got something there, and we ought to be able to do something about that. So Andy Ogles is saying, listen, you got to take this stuff seriously. You can't be anti-US. I realize everybody has a right to say what they want and to think what they want. But, you know, when you come to this country and you're looking for citizenship into this country, there's some basics here for our national security. Mamdani, if Mr. Mamdani concealed relevant associations that concealment may constitute a material misrepresentation sufficient to support denaturalization under federal law, then we got to run with that, right, Pammy? You got to get on this. The federal government must uphold public trust by ensuring that citizenship is not granted under false pretenses. I respectfully urge the Department of Justice to determine whether Mr. Mamdani's conduct prior to naturalization warrants formal review under applicable law. Don't forget, this is the same guy that when he wanted to make a name for himself because he was going to be running for mayor, he went up to Albany, New York and decided to torment Tom Homan, yelling at him, joining the crowd, leading the crowd in this protest against ICE. I mean, heck, he hadn't even met Kristi Noem yet. Little did he know that there was way more where that came from. She was like Tom Homan on steroids. Well, this was Mamdani. This should have been the tip-off right then and there. You hear, do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? He acts like a crazed maniac. Boy, oh boy, what a loser. It's kind of sad that he is, more than sad, that he is mayor of New York. Look, Representative Randy Fine, he does not want him as mayor of New York. He does not want him in this country. He thinks he's dangerous, and understandably so, especially given the 2015 tweets, especially given some of the lyrics from his little rap songs, especially given that it appears as though he was not entirely forthcoming on that N400 form when he was applying for citizenship. Let's go to Randy Fine.
Meet EM Sense, a breakthrough in foot therapy that wraps around your foot and ankle like a therapeutic boot and attacks the root cause.
Deport. I mean, the fact of the matter is Mamdani hates America, hates the Judeo-Christian civilization that we have here. You know, we're allowed to protest whatever we want. We hear this all the time from the left. When they were doing all this ridiculous stuff on our college campuses, people like this jerk mayor talked about how they had a First Amendment right to say whatever they want. That's not the issue. The issue is two Muslim terrorists who were inspired by ISIS, who traveled to the Middle East, threw bombs at people. That is the issue. You're allowed to say whatever you want in this country. You're not allowed to throw bombs. But Mamdani is covering for the Muslim terrorists that he supports, whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's in America. He should be stripped of his citizenship and he should be deported.
Yeah, and I would like to also mention, you know, his wife liking dozens of posts celebrating what happened on October 7th. These people, they are who they are. They've never hidden it. Go ahead, sir.
Well, they rub it in your face. I mean, he wanted to say his wife's a private person. She's irrelevant. But then he had to bring her up, I would note, in that little statement that you played. They're laughing at us. It is part of the core tenet of their faith, the idea of taqiyya, the idea of lying and being manipulative to push the faith on us. Mamdani is a bad person. He is an evil person, and he is not someone who should be a citizen of the United States, let alone the mayor of New York.
I got one question for everybody. Why did they vote him in?
Yeah, I'd say that again, right? I'd say that again. You know, I'd also say you need to think about what's going on in this moment in time. You need to think about his reaction, right? When people are about to be victims of a bomb, and you get CNN acting like it's like, you know, just another nice little sunny day with a little field trip outing to New York for these two young boys that, you know, just want the best for the world. And then you get Mamdani effectively blaming white supremacy for, I'm telling you, it's time to look at deporting this guy. Seriously.
If you were to win, you would become the first Muslim mayor of New York City.
This is, I'm going to go back to it in a second, a soundbite from Mamdani back in late June or early July, around the time that you had Andy Ogles coming forward saying, hey, Pam Bondi, you got to look into this guy because 2015, you got the lyrics on the rap songs and you've got the belief that he lied on his N400 immigration application to become a citizen of the US. And it was like, how dare you? How dare you? And all the media is like on his side. He's like the little darling, right? And so let's go back to this. This is NBC's Meet the Press with Kirsten, whatever her name is, Welker, I don't know. But clearly on his side, as they all are. And just watch this, because he's swarmy. He's swarmy, all right.
If you were to win, you would become the first Muslim mayor of New York City. Along the way, throughout the course of this primary campaign, you have received death threats. You've received all sorts of attacks online. Congressman Andy Ogles called for you to be deported, for example, because you were born in Uganda. He also issued an Islamophobic epithet, which I am not going to repeat here. But what type of toll has this taken on you personally and on your family?
It's been difficult. It's been difficult to have to deal with the regular and repeated smears and slander upon my name and on the very basis of my faith. And I think what's so sad is that this is but a glimpse into what life is like for many Muslim New Yorkers and many New Yorkers of different faiths who are constantly being told that they don't belong in this city and in this country that they love. And ultimately, what continues to give me hope is that these moments are but small examples, something that goes against what so many New Yorkers actually feel.
I told you, slick, right? Really, really, really slick.
Okay, that was the first one, but the funny TikTok lady just came out, a two-parter one so far. She just got, so that timed it perfectly. So we'll do hers real quick and go back to more Trish.
About this video that's going to be happy, but hopefully one thing that I tell you on here could possibly help you or save your life. I'm going to ask you, please share this video, please. So 4 drones were stolen from Fort Campbell back in November. They are surveillance drones. This is what we really have to worry about here. Are these people using drones to do mass damage? They are run by GPS. They fly under the radar. They don't have the lights on them, so you can't see them. They still make the humming sound, so be aware of that, okay? They do fly low. They can put things on them like an explosive device or even something that holds a bunch of chemicals. If you were a terrorist, would you want to destroy a country with fire and bombs and have to come in there and clean everything up and rebuild everything up? What would be the easiest thing for you? If I was an evil person and I was going to try to take over a country, I would do a little something where I just have to come in and do a little cleanup. The cars are still okay. The food's still here. The houses are still here. Think about that for a minute. I've got some things I want to share with you that I've had stocked up for years and I have done for years just in case something happens. First of all, let's talk about self-defense. If you are not carrying right now, shame on you. You need to carry. Do you know, keep a pen on you, a regular pen. Do you know how much damage a regular pen can do when used correctly? Do you know how much damage this can do when used correctly? That's all I'm going to say. You keep it on you at all times. You've got it in your purse, your vehicle, on you. Okay. The second thing is, this is not wash spray because I don't know what I do with my wash spray. Shame on me. This is Yard Guard. Do not get Yard Guard. Get wasp spray. I don't know if you've used wasp spray, but when you push this, that projectile goes about 25 feet. Do you know how far you can be from somebody who's maybe fixing to do something and you've got wasp spray in your home or your office building? So if you're working in an office, get a can of wasp spray, put it right there beside you. Nobody's going to pay attention to it, honey. They're not even going to pay attention to a can of wasp spray. They come in right here. Okay, they're down. Just
those are good tips.
Another thing that I keep in stock all the time, I have one for every family member, and you should too. This is called a life straw. It's a life straw. It's about $19 or $17 for each one. I kept it in its wrapper. You can suck water out of a toilet with this. You can go to the dirtiest, shittiest chicken shit mud hole you got in your yard. And you put this thing in there and you suck the water up, and it 99.9% purifies water. Water is a big deal in a situation like this. People will do anything for water. You don't have to just worry about if we're attacked. You have to worry about how we're going to act to each other, because we're going to be crazy. We're going to be looking for gas. We're going to be looking for food. We're going to be looking for water. We're going to be crazy. Watch The Walking Dead, the zombie show, and figure out who the real enemy is. Good morning, guys. This is a
Okay, part 2 coming up. I think this is part 2.
Room outside or in your garage, you should have at least 3 gallons per person per week saved up. If you don't have that, then you need to get you a rain barrel and put it outside. If it ain't raining right now, fill that bitch up with water and make sure it stays with water. Get the little mosquito dunks, put one in it. It's safe for you and safe for your pets. It keeps the mosquitoes from breeding in that, okay? Oil of oregano is pretty cheap, and it is literally nature's antibiotic. So if you can get you some oil of oregano and keep it on hand, it may burn a little bit, but you can mix it with some oil like coconut oil or cooking oil, put it on a wound, and yes, it does not feel good, but it's better than nothing. Make sure you have your medications that you have at the pharmacy that maybe you've been kind of delaying picking up. Maybe go ahead and start getting those picked up. Listen, guys, I'm not here trying to scare you. I'm not saying nothing bad's going to happen. Probably more than likely 99.999% nothing bad is going to happen to the whole United States, because President Trump is in office and he's going to take care. But their proxies are already hacking into things. So that means we could have our power plant hacked into. We could have our water hacked into. You have to be prepared. You cannot be asleep anymore. If this video was worth anything to you at all, I'm asking you to please share it. I'm also asking you to please go to my Amazon wish list and sling me out a $6 bag of cat food. I'm trying to get enough food for these cats to keep them fed. Guys, you see my videos. You know what I do. I'm not asking for money. Please help me out with this if this meant anything to you. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. I'll be back later. Every gallon jug that you've got should be filled with water. And
good one, a very important one there. She's right. Or it basically probably any kind of bug spray, right? Not just that one. You waking up, huh? What you do? You're tired, weren't you? Did that wet rain get you earlier? Come on. Want to come up? Come here. Come on. So they can see you. Wake up. Come on, wake up. Chico's up. You want the window? Hold on, let me get another video up.
I like confident men. They make me feel comfortable.
Caitlin Collins getting totally humiliated by the likes of John Fetterman. Woo, John Fetterman for the win. This was like one of the most fabulous takedowns I've ever seen. And he's sick of it.
Come on.
He, like me, is saying, wait a second, the media, they're really seemingly on the side of Iran, like all of them. They're in one giant course because they hate Donald Trump so much. So suddenly anything that Trump does, including possibly fixing the Middle East, is something that they don't want him to attain, right? Because if he attains it, it proves, for goodness sakes, that they were all so damn wrong all along. And 2, well, it just seems so easy and expedient, and they can make a big story of it, and CNN can seem like they're important again. Not that they ever were. John Fetterman totally humiliates this anchor, Caitlin Collins, who's getting a little hot and bothered under her collar. Take a look.
You mentioned how you differ from your colleagues, your other fellow Democrats. Every Senate Democrat except you signed a letter today to Secretary Hegseth asking for an investigation into that strike on a girls' school in Iran. Why did you not sign that letter, Senator?
Well, because we all agree that it's a tragedy having the school hit. Absolutely. And we all agreed now for an investigation. What I don't agree with the rest of my colleagues in the House is that it's a war of choice, or it's dumb, or all the things that my colleagues have described, this operation. I think it's a good thing, and I support that. So we agree that and actually the Pentagon is already investing in that. They just acknowledged then that it seems increasingly likely that we were now on that. And now I think it's entirely appropriate. Just like my colleague from Louisiana said, it's like, we should apologize that. That's a tragedy. And I would remind everybody listening right now, the United States never, ever targets civilians. Iran does, and including their own citizens. And they massacred that 35,000 of them just a couple of weeks ago. And the left, please, the left media is much more angry, about or talking about this hospital, and it is a tragedy, but they didn't seem to be as concerned about the Iranians massacring tens of thousands of their young people just a couple of weeks ago too. So we agree on many parts of it, but we both disagree. I mean, we all disagree that I think it's a good thing. And every single other Democrat in the caucus calls it all kinds of in negative terms.
It gets even better. Okay, I'm saving the best for last. So he's making the point that, the media is like totally on one side and one side only. And, the concern about, obviously, it's a tragedy with the Iranian school and the young girls that were killed there. And everybody hates that. Of course, you also have to ask yourself, they've been known to put important weaponry and people inside these hospitals, inside schools, et cetera, so that if you take one of those out, then we look like the bad guy. It could have just been, and the Pentagon has indicated this so much so far, that it was just an honest mistake, and those things happen. Look, it happened with Biden, it happened with Obama, but when it happens with Trump, right, it's a whole other level. Anyway, I want to go back to this because at some point, like, she tries to cut him off and go to commercial, and he loses it on her. And you know what? He had every right to. I'll tell you, I'll give him credit for this. He really seems to just be true blue. He is what he is, and he has no use for any of the shenanigans. Look.
We did cover the protest in Iran extensively here at CNN. Obviously, they said a lot about how internally people felt about the regime. But just to be clear,
so I don't know, but I'm talking about other left media, and I didn't find you as...
I understand. I just wanted to make that clear to our viewers that we did cover that. But just to be clear, you do believe if the United States was responsible, that the Pentagon should acknowledge that they accidentally hit a girls' school?
Yeah, I've said that. I said it seems that they've already acknowledging all those things. I think largely that letter, it was rendered moot at this point after that's already come out. Now the Pentagon has agreed that they were behind that. And I don't know what your network just talked about, but what I'm saying that whether like it's the New York Times, they're making it more and more, trying to convince America that this has been a disaster or things are out of control, and that's just categorically not true on that.
I just think it deserves coverage. Obviously, given the number of children who were killed as a result of it, it obviously matters what happened there.
This is getting awkward, right?
What the Pentagon investigation says. Senator John Fetterman, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for joining us as always here.
No, you don't have to cut me off here.
Go ahead, Senator. We're not cutting you off.
Well, you said something that it's like it's appropriate to cover it. It is appropriate to cover it. It's a tragedy. Absolutely. And if we were on that, it's entirely appropriate for it to apologize. If you're implying that I don't think it's wrong to cover it, that's just not true. Yes, it's being covered. I just want to clarify that. It just seemed like a short shut off there to imply that I didn't want to carry that. I think it's entirely appropriate to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not implying that. I just wanted to clarify why we're covering it for everyone who's watching. Senator, thank you. I do always appreciate hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thank you.
There was another dog that
Yeah,
walked in the
right.
back.
As President Trump today discussed what he believes is victory in the war with Iran, he also discussed
I'm dying. One of you guys said, "Oh my gosh, these liberals, they don't know what to do with one of their own when they get a real, like, decent quality liberal." My gosh. But here's the thing. Okay, so you've got all these little anchors out there. They all want to be the new Don Lemon, because apparently Don Lemon used to be the big cheese there at the CNN network. Yeah. Oh, and the other little guy, Jim Acosta. So Jimmy and Donnie were like ruling it. And now they got Katie and Abby that are now like the new queen bees, okay? They had the other two queen bees, and now this queen bee and the other queen bee, and they're going to be out of jobs. I'm telling you, like, I don't think David Ellison's going to put up with it. I have multiple sources that know him very well. He wants to make sure that people have their trust restored in the news industry, and they say he's really smart, like really, really, really smart. He's actually going to change everything in drastic ways. So that's going to be bad news for little Abby and little Katie, right? David Ellison, listen to this.
I'm coming for you.
I exited out. Sorry about that one, you guys. Here's another one. 12 minutes.
And we see evidence of this, and they're on the side of Iran, it appears. I mean, well, the whole media is, because if you can be pro-Iran, then you're anti-Trump. For goodness sakes, everybody's priorities are messed up. But let me go to this CNN host, because this CNN host was forced to apologize live on the air. Now, this is a big deal, because I can tell you, having come from network TV, like, you don't often ask your anchors to apologize on the air. But you see, she really stepped in it. She just automatically assumed that they were after Mamdani, because, hey, you know, they always are, right? They're after Mamdani. They're never just after other people. They got to be after the guy who doesn't look like them. At least clearly she has her biases. So we talked about this. I highlighted this story for you yesterday, and it bubbled up into such a big thing that this woman was forced to apologize on the air because she had said this.
Up next, 2 Republicans say Muslims don't belong here after an attempted terror attack against New York's Mayor Zohran Mamdani, and the House Speaker Mike Johnson says nothing really to condemn those comments. Another special guest is going to be with us at the table when we come back.
You see, she automatically assumed, you heard that, right? That it was Mamdani that was being attacked. Turns out it was the protesters that were being attacked. It was not Mamdani. So we explained that yesterday. And yeah, I'll tell you, it took on a life of its own. This has been a really viral moment for this CNN anchor, and people are really angry about it. So yeah, she tweeted something out, but she had to double down on her show last night and say this.
More to come, but first, this morning I issued a correction first thing in the morning on X for a mistake that I made in last night's show, but I also wanted to do so on air as well. I incorrectly said that the bombs that were thrown by ISIS-inspired suspects in New York over the weekend were directed at Mayor Mamdani. They were not. I failed to catch and correct that mistake in real time, and I take full responsibility for that. And while we do make mistakes, it is important to acknowledge and correct those errors when they happen. But next for us.
Okay, that's a big deal. Like I know this, having worked in TV, you know, you don't just apologize unless you really screw up, and people are really mad. Of course, she's sitting there probably saying, "Ooh, am I still going to have a job? Am I still going to have a job when David Ellison comes in from Paramount and this whole merger thing happens? Because didn't he say he wants the American public to be able to trust CNN again? Well, how is the American public ever going to trust CNN when you got anchors like this one saying stuff like this?"
I would say we've had 2 terrorist attacks here in the last 10 days.
What does that have to do with Muslims?
So can we condemn those? Why are we?
Of course. What does that have to do with Muslims?
What does that have to do with Muslims?
I'm sorry. The 2 terror attacks in the last 2 days, what does it have to do with Muslims? Okay, so you get where she's coming from, all right? It's important to understand the biases of these crazy media people, because they are trying to sway you. And, you know,
You hear, Chico?
I'll tell you, they're having an effect. You look at the polls, and I think people are increasingly saying, well, I don't know. I don't know. Is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? We don't know what the president had for intelligence, but I'm going to take him at his word because I know him, and he's not someone who just wants to go to war for the HELL of it. No, 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 no. He does not. So there was something there that made him believe we needed to take action now. And I'm going to give it a few weeks, okay? Like, you know, we're what, 13 days into this? And everybody wants to hang him? Everyone at CNN, everyone at the New York Times, everyone at Bloomberg, everyone at the Wall Street Journal, for goodness sakes, hang on, okay? Just hang on a little bit because there might be more to this. Caitlin Collins getting totally humiliated by the likes of John Fetterman. Woo, John Fetterman for the win. This was like one of the most fabulous takedowns I've ever seen. And he's sick of it. He, like me, is saying, wait a second, the media, they're really seemingly on the side of Iran, like all of them. They're in one giant chorus because they hate Donald Trump so much. So suddenly anything that Trump does, including possibly fixing the Middle East, is something that they don't want him to attain, right? Because if he attains it, it proves, for goodness sakes, that they were all so damn wrong all along. And two, well, it just seems so easy and expedient, and they can make a big story of it, and CNN can seem like they're important again. Not that they ever were. John Fetterman totally humiliates this anchor, Caitlin Collins, who's getting a little hot and bothered under her collar. Take a look.
The most affordable German-engineered car brand is also the most fun. Get in the driver.
You mentioned how you differ from your colleagues, your other fellow Democrats. Every Senate Democrat except you signed a letter today to Secretary Hegseth asking for an investigation into that strike on a girls' school in Iran. Why did you not sign that letter, Senator?
Well, because we all agree that it's a tragedy having the school hit. Absolutely. And we all agreed now for an investigation. What I don't agree with the rest of my colleagues in the House is that it's a war of choice, or it's dumb, or all the things that my colleagues have described, this operation. I think it's a good thing, and I support that. So we agree that and actually the Pentagon is already investing in that. They just acknowledge then that it seems increasingly likely that we were now on that, and now I think it's entirely appropriate. Just like my colleague from Louisiana said, it's like we should apologize. That's a tragedy, and I would remind everybody listening right now, the United States never ever targets civilians. Iran does, and including their own citizens, and they massacred 35,000 of them just a couple of weeks ago. And the left, please, the left media is much more angry, about or talking about this hospital, and it is a tragedy, but they didn't seem to be as concerned about the Iranians massacring tens of thousands of their young people just a couple of weeks ago too. So we agree on many parts of it, but we both disagree. I mean, we all disagree that I think it's a good thing. And every single other Democrat in the caucus caused it all kinds of in negative terms.
It gets even better. Okay, I'm saving the best for last. So he's making the point that, the media is like totally on one side and one side only. And, the concern about, obviously, it's a tragedy with the Iranian school and the young girls that were killed there. And everybody hates that. Of course, you also have to ask yourself, they've been known to put important weaponry and people inside these hospitals, inside schools, et cetera, so that if you take one of those out, then you look like the bad guy. It could have just been, and the Pentagon has indicated this so much so far, that it was just an honest mistake, and those things happen. Look, it happened with Biden, it happened with Obama, but when it happens with Trump, right, it's a whole other level. Anyway, I want to go back to this because at some point, like, she tries to cut him off and go to commercial, and he loses it on her. And you know what? He had every right to. I'll tell you, I'll give him credit for this. He really seems to just be true blue. He is what he is, and he has no use for any of the shenanigans. Look.
Chico.
We did cover the protests in Iran extensively here at CNN. Obviously, they said a lot about how internally people felt about the regime. But
I
just
don't
to be
watch,
clear,
so I don't know,
you do
but I'm talking
believe
about
if the
other
United
left media, and I didn't find you as.
I understand. I just wanted to make that clear to our viewers that we did cover that. But just to be clear, you do believe if the United States was responsible, that the Pentagon should acknowledge that they accidentally hit a girls' school.
Yeah, I've said that. I said it seems that they've already acknowledging all those things. I think largely that letter, it was rendered moot at this point after what that's already come out. Now the Pentagon has agreed that they were behind that, and I don't know what your network talked about, but what I'm saying that whether like it's the New York Times, they're making it more and more trying to convince America that this has been a disaster or things are out of control, and that's just categorically not true on that.
I just think it deserves coverage. Obviously, given the number of children who were killed as a result of it, it obviously matters what happened there.
This is getting awkward, right?
What the Pentagon investigation says. Senator John Fetterman, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for joining us as always here.
Oh, no, you don't have to cut me off here.
Go ahead, Senator. We're not cutting you off.
Well, you said something that it's like it's appropriate to cover it. It is appropriate to cover it. It's a tragedy. Absolutely. And now if we were on that, it's entirely appropriate for it to apologize. If you're implying that I don't think it's wrong to cover it, that's just not true. Yes, it's being covered. I just want to clarify that. It just seemed like a short shut off there to imply that I didn't want to carry that. Or I think it's entirely appropriate to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not implying that. I just wanted to clarify why we're covering it for everyone who's watching. Senator, thank you. I do always appreciate hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that was a good one. Okay, we got a new death clock, I believe. I found last night, guys. And we'll come back. We did about 3 of hers already. I want to get some short ones in. No Billy Bean yet. Death clock, and the next 2 after that will be DJ. So this should be a new one.
For like a week and a half, and I'm also studying, so I have a lot going on. But anyway, the U.S. debt clock has been sending out so many messages, it's hard to keep track of all of them. Today, I'm starting out with the universal high income. We have the wheat field in the background. I have been plowed through. It looks like they have been harvested. The universal high income directly links to Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk has been talking a lot about a universal high income and the age of abundance in several videos. In this video, he explains that rapid advances in AI and robotics could eventually make work optional. In that scenario, society could shift from universal basic income to a universal high income, meaning people could access most goods and services without needing traditional jobs. He believes extreme productivity from automation could create a future of abundance where poverty is largely eliminated. In this video, he also talks about artificial general intelligence, which is AGI, potentially creating an age of abundance. The idea is that machines could produce nearly everything society needs, making work optional for many people and allowing humanity to focus more on creativity and exploration. Now that's interesting because today I've been seeing all these posts that Elon Musk says we will have AGI this year in 2026. Now, researching this, he made that statement in a podcast interview on moonshots in late 2025 or very early 2026. Multiple sources reference the exact interview for the prediction. He said, I think we'll hit AGI next year in 26. I'm confident by 2030. AI will exceed the intelligence of all humans combined. Now, I find this fascinating because this is what I'm studying in my courses. I'm studying AI and how to develop AI and also how to implement AI with data analysis. So it's really interesting how fast things are changing, you guys. Now, there's another US debt clock message that they posted that I really wanted to get to. This is when I was sick. But this one I found so interesting, talking about a new world ascending. Okay, we've got the golden America and the golden age. Down here, we have the Roman Empire. Okay, and with the new world is ascending out of that old world, the Roman Empire. We also have that's not the sun, you guys. This is the blood moon lunar eclipse that we just had on March 3rd on 3/3. So that's that down there. And then we have this planetary alignment right here, but you can only see 2 planets and the others are translucent. So this is signifying that we are entering into that new world now. Now on the bottom, we have a scripture, Joel chapter 2, 28 through 32, which says, you guys kind of long, so stick with me. And afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my spirit in those days. I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke. That line there, we're already seeing this happen with Iran. And here it says the sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. For on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, there will be deliverance. And the Lord has said, even among the survivors whom the Lord calls. It's interesting. We are seeing these things happening right now as we speak. Okay. I wanted to bring up again Jupiter in this message here with the Revelations 12 planetary alignment. We see a small Jupiter beaming on the big Jupiter. It looks kind of like a comet. And we also have Atlas right here, which 3i Atlas is projected to pass by Jupiter on March 16th, which is in just a few days. We also have that prophecy from Chris Bledsoe saying that there will be a new knowledge when the star Regulus aligns with the gaze of the Sphinx, which is projected to be around Easter 2026. So right at the beginning of next month. Now, you guys find it odd that this war started right after we had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at the end of February. We also had the blood moon lunar eclipse on March 3rd, which was exactly the same time when the war began, which is biblical. And then we have this post that the war is part of God's plan and that Trump was anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth. You guys, the military leaders legit said this to military personnel in briefing. This is what Kim Clement prophesied. This is what the conspiracy letter has been saying. That this is biblical. This is biblical times. And what's even crazier is that Trump posted this of Kim Clement's prophecy today. You guys, please listen through the entire 2-minute video.
This that shall take place shall be the most unusual thing, a transfiguration, a going into the marketplace, if you wish, into the news media, where Time magazine will have no choice but to say what I want them to say. Newsweek, what I want to say. The View, what I want to say. Trump shall become a trumpet, says the Lord. Trump shall become a trumpet. I will raise up the Trump to become a trumpet and Bill Gates to open up the gate of the financial realm for the church, says the Lord. And I will not forget 9/11. I will not forget what took place that day. And I will not forget the gatekeeper that watched over New York, who will once again stand and watch over this nation, says the Spirit of God. It shall come to pass that the man that I place in the highest office shall go in whispering my name. But God said when he enters into the office, he will be shouting out by the power of the Spirit, for I shall fill him with my Spirit when he goes into office, and there will be a praying man in the highest seat in your land. There will be a praying president, not a religious one, but I will fool the people, says the Lord. I will fool the people. Yes, I will. God says the one that is chosen shall go in and they shall say, he has hot blood. For the Spirit of God says, yes, he may have hot blood, but he will bring the walls of protection on this country in a greater way, and the economy of this country shall change rapidly, says the Lord of hosts. Listen to the word of the Lord. God says, I will put at your helm for 2 terms a president that will pray, but he will not be a praying president when he starts. I will put him in office, and then I will baptize him with the Holy Spirit and my power, says the Lord of hosts. Come on!
Now, it's interesting because the attacks started on February 28th, okay, which converts to 9/11 on the Islamic calendar. Kim Clement prophesied that God would not forget 9/11. One last U.S. debt clock message, you guys. I know there's a lot of them, but this one I want to touch up on, where it says, will Trump announce the USA Treasury dollar on July 4th, America 250? Just talking about the 250th birthday of America. It says the US Treasury dollar is to replace the Federal Reserve fiat currency that has been the standard US medium of exchange since 1913. I found this interesting because the US debt clock posted this message saying the US Treasury dollar in 2026 with fireworks on it. So yeah, you guys, so many messages. I've been trying to touch up on as many as I can, but I'm really looking forward to right now is March 16th, which is when 3i Atlas is supposed to pass by Jupiter. And Jupiter has been a common theme in the US debt clock. So that is what I'm eyeing next. I will keep you guys updated. I promise you guys, I'm so sorry about the last few weeks. I'm still paying attention to everything that's going on. So I will keep you guys updated.
That was 3 days ago. So hopefully she'll be back on track. I got 3 new photos of Princess Diana, Melania. Anyone see these new ones? Okay, that was one. I got my popcorn. One more clip. Anybody see her and her daughter? I've never seen this one. Okay, I'm going to try to get the DJ videos. Yeah, a second. Okay, we'll do this one until I find Derek videos.
The shocking details are that the 7 states that depend on it cannot agree on who should sacrifice their water to save it. Lake Powell sits at 3,530 feet above sea level as of this weekend. Below 3,490 feet, water can no longer reach the 8 turbines inside Glen Canyon Dam. The Bureau of Reclamation Zone Forecast projects the reservoir will end this water year at 3,497 feet under the most probable scenario, and at 3,479 feet if conditions stay dry. which would put it below the threshold for the first time in the dam's 62-year history. 5 million people across 6 states and more than 50 Native American tribes receive electricity from those turbines. The Colorado River headwaters snowpack just recorded its lowest level since measurements began in 1986. Federal forecasters announced Friday that spring runoff to Lake Powell will deliver just 36% of normal, the 5th lowest inflow since the reservoir was created. The dam is releasing 2.5 million more acre-feet of water this year than the river is putting in. On February 14th, the 7 basin states missed their second federal deadline to agree on a plan after more than 2 years of negotiations that Nevada's top water official described as having yielded almost no headway. But here is the detail buried in a Bureau of Reclamation technical memo that most people have never seen. If Lake Powell drops below 3,490 feet, the dam does not simply stop generating power.
Another half hour.
Water must then be forced through 4 emergency bypass tubes called river outlet works, infrastructure that was never designed for extended operation. The Bureau of Reclamation's own engineers have warned that operating those outlets at low elevations risks structural failure, and that if even one of the 4 tubes fails, water delivery through the dam becomes limited or potentially unavailable. Glen Canyon. Dam is not just losing power. It is approaching a point where it may not be able to move water at all. And 40 million people are downstream. Here is how the crisis accelerated. On June 22, 1980, Lake Powell reached full pool, 3,700 feet, for the first and only time in its history. It took 17 years to fill. It has been draining for 25 years. By February 2023, the reservoir hit an all-time record low of 3,521 feet, more than 178 feet below capacity. A wet winter bought 1 year of breathing room. Then the heat returned. By December 2024, Powell had climbed back to 3,572 feet. Within 12 months, it plunged to 3,536 feet. By January of this year, it was at 3,538 feet. By this weekend, it was at 3,530 feet, down 31 feet from a year ago. Every single foot the reservoir drops costs 3 megawatts of generating capacity. The dam that once produced 1,320 megawatts now operates at a fraction of that, and the water is still falling. Glen Canyon Dam sits on the border between Utah and Arizona, 5 miles upstream of the town of Page, Arizona. The reservoir stretches 186 miles in southern Utah, threading through the sandstone canyons that gave Glen Canyon its name. The Colorado River begins as snowmelt in the mountains of Grand County, Colorado, more than 500 miles to the northeast. That water flows through 4 upper basin states: Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and New Mexico. It collects in Lake Powell, passes through Glen Canyon Dam, and continues downstream to Lake Mead, where Hoover Dam releases it to Arizona, California, and Nevada. The river then crosses the Mexican border and empties, or once emptied, into the Gulf of California. 40 million people. 7 states. The largest reservoir in the United States is about to lose the ability to generate power. The shocking details are that the 7 states that depend on it cannot agree on who should.
Okay, Colorado River or the water there. I don't know if I played this one or not. I don't think I did.
Some people don't. All right. When I get up in my chest, it's because I'm passionate about this. It's not because I'm mad at you, because I don't know some of you out there. I know some of you, but I don't know all of you. All right. So I'm not mad at you. But when you say this is hogwash, when you say this is nonsense, when you say this is all BS, when you use negative energy and negative comments like that, then that's when I do have to get up in arms in another manner, because all I'm doing is honoring every man and woman who's fallen in this uniform. All right. Not all veterans know what's going on right now. This ain't a veteran movement only. All right. This is a world revolution. All right. You're watching a great awakening. All right. All the people out there, I've seen them all over my Facebook, not necessarily on my business pages, but on my personal. I've been deleting a lot of people on my personal Facebook. I have one personal Facebook. I've been deleting people. They call President Trump the Antichrist. You don't know anything. Most people don't even know enough of the Bible to even know, like, just your simple things of the Bible. But if you're calling President Trump the Antichrist, you hadn't read much of anything what's going on right now. The polar opposite of that. All right. Plus, you don't have the bloodline. So there's a lot of things. So we're in a humorous part of this operation, but we're also in a serious part of this. We're in a discernment always. It's always discernment 101. All right. So a lot of people are still following commenters. Some people will see a comment in the comment box and they'll go, oh, I agree with that. No, if you don't know what's going on currently with laws and orders, all right, and you haven't been following this whole time, and you also don't know how to look at the 40,000 foot view, but also come down to the ground level and then get into the intricacies. If your intricacies are rabbit holing this and that, and oh, JFK Jr. is in the behind the scenes, he's calling all the shots, and da, 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 da. If you're operating like that, you're not in the real world. All right, so you got to get into the real world. You got to look at what President Trump's operating with and quit thinking that, oh, he's back there and JFK Jr.'s in his ear saying, hey, do this right here, do that. You got to quit doing that. Y'all got to get in the real world. All right, so I don't do that. I don't do what others do. So anybody who lumps me in with everybody else, you obviously don't know me that well. You don't know me that well. All right, because I'm operating with what President Trump's operating with. Plain and simple. That's why I was allowed to do certain things. That's why I've been invited down there. That's why I've been in photos with him. He re-truthed something this week that I've been truthing for a while now. All right. So, it's not going to say President Trump re-truthed Derek Johnson yet because, again, this is an operation. If you don't seek to understand how military laws pair with federal, you can have half the picture with federal, but if you don't know the military portion, you're still going to be lost. I saw some comments on a person who was a friend of mine on my personal page, don't know them, and I sent them a message. I said, hey, there's no reason for you to be on my personal page if you're not going to show people that, hey, some of us are in position. Some of us have been put in these positions, all right? A lot of Americans right now want to be the one who totes the news. They want to be the ones, oh, I said that first. That was me. I said that. I'm the one that broke that. And they don't know anything on the front. It was a regurgitation. And that's another problem. So there's so much noise and so much chaos and so much confusion. If people would look from the top down, I know my place. I never get ahead of President Trump. I never, from the standpoint of, oh, he should do that. No, he's the commander. He's the face. He's the supreme commander. He's the military governor.
Hey, Samantha. So I think I'll be going shopping this afternoon when my brother-in-law gets home. And so I went out earlier, and we'll probably, I don't know how long I'll be, but I'll have a night show tonight.
All right, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But until you, whoever you are out there listening, until you put it into perspective and in the order of which you fall in, until then, there's going to be chaos, there's going to be confusion, there's going to be toters, and there's going to be regurgitators. And until you have the respect of that someone just might be smarter than you and know more than you, until you accept that. So don't be that person. Because when you confuse someone else out there because you can't say it the way it's supposed to be said and the way it is actually happening, when you push someone else, it's kind of like the Bible says, their blood's on your hands. And when you push someone far away because you can't say it the right way, all because you were being selfish and you didn't want to say, hey, I can't say it, but this guy right here, he does this, that, this. Because the worst thing we got ahead of us, the worst part that we have ahead of us, the only bad part we have left are who's going to maintain and sustain this. Most everybody who's awake right now are 45 years old and older. No offense to you out there if you're 30 or 25 and you're listening, but you're a rarity. You're in the tiny percentile. All right. We don't have college kids who are interested in laws and orders the correct way. We don't have it. because there's a ton of laws and orders. There's a ton of different kind of laws and orders. All right. But what is operating right now, it's all public information. It's not secretive. All right. However, where we are right now, April 13th, 2020, where we are right now, anybody who's picking up brand new right now and acting like they knew the whole time, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. All right. Because some of us have been doing this long before we even have platforms. All right. And our friends and family know that. All right. So that's where it's dangerous. And it seems to be, history has shown and history repeats itself. It's always the regurgitators who get the positions, because people do. And no offense to the person who said that, but people do tend to gravitate to the ones who look better, got a better background, got the fancy graphics and this, that. They tend to float to that because that's some kind of entitlement, or it looks more quote unquote professional. All right. They tend to go to the people who are more brushed up in their language and their verbiage and their vernacular and all the context. Like, people tend to go to that, but it ain't always those who knows what's going on the front of it. You want the problem solvers on the front that's going to lead you through the desert. You want the problem solvers on the front that's going to pull you out of the miry ashes or whatever it is you're in, the fire, whatever it is, your emotion. That's what you want, and that's who you want. So again, I preface all this because where we are right now, some of the comments out there and some of the people who are jumping ship, a lot of the comments are either President Trump's the Antichrist, or President Trump is just one of them. And these are mainly patriots now, quote unquote, and Republicans, conservatives saying this. There's three different things I'm seeing the most. President Trump's the Antichrist. He's one of them. And the other one is, I haven't seen anything. Oh, I don't, y'all just keep saying it. You just keep saying, no, I don't say anything's coming. I've never told you a date. I've never told you any kind of like prediction, nothing like that. I don't operate like that. I operate in the real world. I operate with the laws and orders that President Trump's working with. All right. They're all public. Again, I have to say that over and over. They're all public. All right. What we lack in America is initiative, and we have too many people like the birds in the nest. I always show the little graphic every so often. You want to be spoon-fed. You want it to be laid out just as simple, like a fillet. That's why so many people are watching too many people. You're going to this page and that page and this page and that page and this face and this face and that name, and you think there's going to be some new material there. There's not. All right. The foundational orders that President Trump's working with is like a broken freaking record. Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. It's like a broken record. And once you learn that, you got it. You got it whipped. It's it. It's that simple. It really is that simple. I have a friend who picks on me all the time because I say that all the time. It's that simple. But it really is that simple.
Might be a little bit longer.
If you'll learn the foundational orders, they're there. They haven't changed. They're still there. That's why when people say you're crazy, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that, you're a conspiracy theorist, when they call you names, you can just smile with a you know what kind of grin on your face and say, the law ain't changed. The order ain't changed. It's still right there. Now, you don't have to like it. That's another thing. You don't have to like it. That's fine. You can abhor it. You can hate it. You can loathe it, but it ain't changed. That's what they're working with. I love that little meme of the little girl where she's going like, like, I don't know what to tell you, Jose, but it ain't changed. That's how the military works. That's how military operations. That is the federal law. That's what's in place. So I got my notes up. I brought some notes today. We're going to stay on track here because I like to do what President Trump calls the weave. I like doing the weave. All right. So, people don't, when people say that out there to you, because I know I'm speaking your frustrations. I know my followers, and I see I know the good followers, and I know the good commenters, and I know the good messages. I'm speaking your frustrations because it's there. All right. If people would just read and study, it's that simple. Just read this and study this. Divorce your emotions, divorce your feelings, divorce what you think you've known all these years. Put that aside for a moment and just take it like a challenge and go, okay, look, if you think I'm wrong so much, then in order to prove me, quote unquote, wrong, which I'm not, but in order to prove me wrong, you got to work with what I'm working with. You got to read what I'm reading. You got to study what I'm studying. You have to know what I know in order to, quote unquote, debunk or prove me wrong. So when you try to debunk or prove someone wrong and you're not operating what they're operating with, all you want is attention. And today we call those attention whores. All right. I'm not going to code around it or sugarcoat it. That's exactly all it is. Either you're a narcissist and or which an attention whore. All right. You just want someone to argue with or whatever it is. All right. And we're past those days. We're past that. All right. So you can't see anything. The people out there say, I haven't seen anything. When's the big day coming? You're listening to the wrong people. You're listening to the wrong people. If you think there's just going to be this day that the whole world stops, like the Waylon Jennings song, stop the world and let me on. I'm tired of spinning round and round. If you think there's going to be a day that the whole world just stops and President Trump comes out and says, all right, here's the Dead Sea Scrolls that's like 47 miles long, and here's what's taken place the last 247 million days. All right, here they are. Enjoy. It ain't going to work like that. It's been a rolling operation. And the people who get it. All right. Now, you can go back and backtrack your way from 2015 to present day. You can. But you still got to operate with what we're operating with. Laws and orders. That's why I have #1 best-selling books. That's the only reason I have them. It's because I'm the only person who have taken all the military laws and orders and federal laws and orders and put them in one place. You're not going to find them in one place when you start Googling. All right. So that's what makes me unique and different. All right. And again, I'm living through my grandfathers. I'm living through my great uncles. I'm living through my relatives who served years ago. My great grandfather was a World War I veteran. All right. So I'm living through all of my lineage because I listened to my father. I listened to my grandfathers. I listened to my great uncles. I listened to all of my family members. All right. This is not me operating just with my service alone. I'm operating through all of my friends, all of them. All right. All of their experiences, all of the law, everything combined and put it together. And then I listen to them. And now I'm delivering to you the people. All right. But see, they listen to whom? They listen to their superiors. They listen to their dad. They listen to their uncle. They listen to their great uncles. They listen to their great grandfathers. They listen too. So see, that's how this works. You got to remember, everybody's spoiled to social media, but there was a day in my lifetime we didn't have social media. Me, myself, and I. All right. So everything had to be done what? Written down and recorded in history. All right. That's why President Trump is telling everybody, you got to be careful what you read. All right. There's certain things that don't need to be published, which is part of your 1798 Aliens Act. See, there's another portion of that act that was passed in 1798 that they abolished in 1800. But it's very key to keep in mind. When the Supreme Court upheld that just recently, they upheld the 1798 portion, not the 1800 portion. The 1798 portion talks about the Aliens Act and also the Seditions Act. The Seditions Act part of it was where back in 1798 with our founders, you got to keep in mind, that's our founders. Our founders wrote this. Our founders said you can't publish anything that talks about the federal government. Well, see, the federal government back then was a lot more pure than what you've seen in the last 60 years. All right. But that was our founders saying, no, it's a criminal penalty. If you write something that goes against the federal government, that's false information or false anything, you could get penalized. It was a criminal penalty. So see, that's why right now where we are is very crucial of who you're listening to. And I'm going to tell you what, 99.99999999999% of the ones out there flapping their gums, don't need to be on talking about what's going on right now. They don't. And I know there's good people out there, and I know some of them have good hearts. But until you know that everything currently that President Trump is working with, current and invoked laws and orders, are all outlined as special operation, military government, military occupation, continuity government, continuity of operation, all unconventional warfare. It's unconventional for a reason, because most Americans, 68, here's my number, everybody used to remember me talk about, 68% of Americans can't even name the three branches of government. Just name the three branches of government. So the same people who cannot name the three branches of government want to have an intellectual conversation with me about what's going on right now. Everybody wants an opinion on what's going on right now, but they can't even name the three branches of government. It don't work like that. All right. 54% of Americans read and comprehend at a 6th grade education and below, but they want to have a conversation with me, and all I can retain up here. Now, that's not me bragging about my capabilities. See, somebody out there would take that as, oh, you're bragging about your capabilities. You're bragging about being smarter. No, I'm not bragging. I'm laying out saying, hey, look, if you think this is hogwash, BS, malarkey, and all other kind of words out there, but you can't name the three branches of government, and your educational level is at a 6th grade education and below, you can't have a conversation with me. You can't have a logical, intellectual conversation and comprehend what is taking place. Now, you should be able to, but see what normally gets in the way, that should be able to, guess what the factor is that gets in the way? Pride. They let their pride get in the way. Then they say, well, my dad never taught me that. My uncle was a colonel. My grandfather was a general. I've never heard that before. Did you ever have those conversations with your grandpa? But see, you can't have those conversations with your grandpa because this is a different operation with different laws and orders invoked. All right, so it doesn't matter the conversation you have with your grandpa if your grandpa never knew about government net styles, puppet states, puppet governments, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare. It's unconventional for a reason, because they knew the average American had no clue what was going on. They knew the average American don't know who the wolves are. You don't know who the wolves in sheep's clothing are. Those are the worst ones. The ones who look like you, talk like you, but ain't you. The ones who could get you out in the field and say, hey, drink this Kool-Aid. It's good for you. Yeah. The ones who get you out in Waco, Texas, in a compound, have you worshiping the ground that they walk on. Yeah, that. So you can't know what you're looking at if you don't have the material and the foundation. And that's part of Americans' problems. Everybody wants to build a bear, grab a straw here, grab this and grab that. You remember that old game on TV where you get a grocery cart and you'd have to run through and you pick up what you got to get certain things. That's what Americans look like. And then if you said, hey, I want you to get the same items that the last person just got. Woo, boy, that would have been a fun game. All right, so let me tell you something.
Okay, that was in the ending of it. So I got a part 3 from our lady on TikTok, and then I got a couple short ones. And tonight I'll be on. I don't think we did part 3. We got 1 and 2.
In your home. Do you know what you can do with saran wrap in an emergency? You can make a shelter by wrapping it around trees or a structure. You can make a bed out of saran wrap. You got to know what you're doing, kind of got to figure it out, okay? But saran wrap is something else to have. Also, matches, fire starters, charcoal, a cheap charcoal grill, charcoal fluid, Keep those things on you at all times. If the power goes out, you got to have a way to cook, and you can whip out that old charcoal grill at any time and keep you a couple bags of charcoal ready in case this happens, and matches. Okay. Keep 2 or 3 rolls of saran wrap in your home. Do you know what you can do with saran wrap in an emergency? You can make a shelter by wrapping it around trees or a structure. You can make a bed out of saran wrap. You got to know what you're doing, kind of got to figure it out, okay? But saran wrap is something else to have. Also, matches, fire starters, charcoal, a cheap charcoal grill, charcoal fluid. Keep those things on you at all times. If the power goes out, you got to have a way to cook, and you can whip out that old charcoal grill at any time and keep you a couple bags of charcoal ready in case this happens, and matches. Okay. Keep 2 or 3 rolls of saran wrap.
Okay, I got 2 more left, you guys. 2 more, and I'll be back tonight. I believe this is a new one, I think.
Usually make videos on the way to work or on the way to the store. So the Genius Act that Trump signed into law about the stable coin that is going to roll out in Florida first. And believe me, every state is going to jump on board after this. We're all going to be using stablecoin, which is cryptocurrency, okay? It is not Bitcoin. It is not XRP that can fluctuate up and down, lose money, gain money, lose money, gain money. That's not what this is. This is a stable coin. You can go to the bank, trade in 1 fiat dollar for 1 stable coin. It's dollar for dollar, and your transactions will be done with stable coin. Okay, so it will not be, there's a blockchain in the middle. Okay, there's not going to be any more corruption. To break this down in like simple terms, there's so much detail on this, but just to break it down as if I'm a 5-year-old, so it's easier for people to understand. So it's getting rid of like when you make a credit card payment and you use your fiat dollar, it goes over to the Federal Reserve, and then the Federal Reserve releases the funds over to the credit card company. The Federal Reserve, complete corruption, which has been rolled over to the Treasury Department anyways. Shh, they haven't announced that yet. But anyways, complete corruption. It's going to eliminate the middleman. That's corrupt is what it is. You're going to be in control of your own money, basically. And it's going to be instant payments. So when you hop on your phone and you make a payment, boom, it's instantly there. So it's going to eliminate a lot of transaction fees and a lot of the corrupt middleman that's been doing us no good our whole lives, basically. It's just a blockchain system right in the middle. So it is not going to be CBDC, okay, which is central banking digital currency. That's not what this is, okay? And that would be the mark of the beast, as people call it, where they can control what you buy.
Sorry, but some people
they can turn your money off
this one
on in an instant. Okay, that's not what this is. This is going to make your money untouchable, where you are the only one in control of your money. And this needs to roll out before Nasara can roll out. So this is a good thing. It's stopping the corruption so that when we I can't even talk. We receive our money, we're in control of it, not the middleman anymore, okay? And when you're going to receive an abundance amount of money, you want this security to happen before you get your money, all right? They made a deal where they're attaching it to the National Defense Authorization Act, and we have to make sure before we start using that stable coin that they have included that in where there is no CBDC. There is no central banking digital currency, because that's what you don't want. That would be the mark of the beast, okay? We're not going to do that. People that have their head on straight are not going to take the mark of the beast. Now, would some people do it? Absolutely, okay? Absolutely. I'll go live off the land and grow my own crops before I do anything like that, okay? And not rely on any government whatsoever and just live off grid. That is not what this is. This is actually blocking that. Okay, it's getting rid of the corruption in the middle. Instant payments, you're in control of your own money. And like I said, they have to roll that non-CBDC plan. It has to be rolled into the National Defense Authorization Act, and that will happen. They're going to do that. So our money will be safe, basically, and no, they will never be able to turn it off and tell us what we can and cannot buy, or all of a sudden we have no money. That's not what this is. It's simply just a coin that's stable. Dollar for dollar, trading in your fiat dollars for the stable coin. Anyways, I'll be back later. Have a great day.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can get 3 more in here. I think she had another one. But play this one. I don't think I played him yet.
Last couple of days, I just have a feeling. Y'all remember when Sound of Freedom came out? I do. I saw it by myself.
You guys remember this one?
Wrecked me. I don't even have kids. And I remember everybody. I asked him, "Yeah, did you see that movie?" No. That's too much for me. I can't see that kind of stuff. Well, what about now? Now that it's coming out to the mainstream media and every social platform. I mean, actually, I heard it now in radio. Somehow the Epstein files are making its way through songs on the radio. Wow. What are you going to do now? Still going to turn a blind eye? It's not happening. No, it's been happening. Unfortunately, it's disgusting, it's demonic, and it sucks. It's terrible. I mean, when you have young children who are being picked up and trafficked, growing up, being groomed to be traffickers, and then you have the people that run them and people above them who are eating the flesh. I won't get too graphic. Don't want to lose you. But my question is, what are you going to do? If you're a follower of Christ, I encourage you, do not stay silent, because that is not something that our Bible says to do. And there are children out there still being trafficked, not saying by the same people, but a lot of pedophiles, sick, twisted individuals. So what are you going to do? That's the question. Love y'all. So I'm
going to try to get the second one in. This will be the last one. I'll get the others later tonight.
Their grandpa's a general, dad's a general, mama's a general. It don't matter. If they don't know current laws and orders, current military, and how they pair with federal, there's 4 ways, about to show you. It doesn't matter. The 4 ways that military pair with federal: executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. In May 2016, the Supreme Court clarified that federal courts are separate than military courts, which means what? Law is separate. Military law and federal law. Real simple. From 2017 to 2020, President Trump capitulated a lot of nations, many, many nations. The nations you're seeing making the negotiations right now are those nations. All right. Way back in 2017 to 2020, those were called capitulations. You know why you've probably never heard the term capitulation? It's because it's not a federal or a government term. It's a military term. It's in the law of war manual. Great example. February 18, 2025, a reporter asked President Trump about capitulations and a puppet government. Now, of all the faces out there and of all the names, I am the only person who have talked about puppet governments and puppet states, which was a tactic used in World War II to use 2 different presidents. But these were actually 2 different men, all right, in a whole different kind of tactic and a whole different scenario. My grandfather, who was a World War veteran, taught me about this tactic. What is a reporter doing asking President Trump about capitulations and a puppet government, which are not government terms? Those are military. On December the 20th, 2019, President Trump and the Congress put in a code, a new section in Title 50, Chapter 33, which is Section 1550. Title 50 is your War and National Defense. Chapter 33 is your War Powers Act. All right. And there's a specific clause in there. In the first 180 days after December the 20th, 2019, and every 180 days thereafter, this is to happen. Well, that's the order that President Trump, the only person who can federalize the National Guard and reserve components active duty is the president. That's Title 10. Every veteran, we raised our right hand to Title 10, Section 502. You can't have one Title 10 without the other. Those orders have not been revoked. All right. I break that down in great detail on all my other videos. This is a shorter version. All right. That order has not been revoked. That is the Title 10 order that put all the National Guard in Texas in February last year. Who did everybody think was the quote unquote president last year? Wasn't. President Trump was the only one at the border with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general. The adjutant general reports to the governor unless the National Guard are federalized by Title 10. And President Trump was the only person at the border down there with the governor and the adjutant general. So do your simple math on the Title 10 order, and it'll tell you who your commander-in-chief is, supreme commander and military governor. Proof of that, Executive Order 13961 and Executive Order 13963. 13961 is a federal mission resilience strategy that invoked a continuity of operations, continuity of government on December the 7th, 2020. Think what that was before. All right. Joe revoked that order January the 19th, 2025. Now, if Joe was president, all right, why is he revoking an executive order that invoked a continuity of government, continuity of operations? Why is he revoking that the day before he leaves office? All right, which shows, again, you cannot revoke something that has not been invoked. Executive Order 13963 is the last order of succession in the Department of Defense. That's President Trump's. The other major proof that put me on the map, the 3 cannons on January the 20th, 2021, that is a military funeral. Every other president, and now that you've seen post 2021, every other president has received 4 cannons, 21 rounds fired in the National Capital Region. Joe, the only cannons shown all day long on January the 20th, 2021 were 3 cannons at Arlington. Go to Arlington National Cemetery.mil. 3 cannons, 3 volley salute is not to be confused with 21 gun salute. The 3 volley salute is a military funeral. If tariffs are so bad, how come Joe and Kamala didn't remove President Trump's tariffs from 2021 to 2025? President Trump met with 12 leaders 13 different times at private establishments. How come the Democrats didn't invoke the Logan Act, which is what they did to General Flynn? How come they didn't invoke the Logan Act and the 25th Amendment on President Trump? How come Joe continued 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that had an automatic 2-year termination clause on them? How come he continued those 4 years in a row? Those are the very orders that are draining the whole swamp. Things liberals can't explain. Study, comprehend.
Okay, we had 2 good DJs out there. We got Trisha's out. And we'll see what happens with more good stuff tonight. So everyone have a good afternoon, about 7 or 8, somewhere between there. See what happens this afternoon. So thanks for coming in, the mods. Okay. Finding old Carol, Tim, and Lucy must be busy today. And God bless everybody. Love all. Please hit like. Make sure you subscribe to the backup channels. Thank you. And stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith. Never give up. Signing off for Friday first show, the second one tonight. And yep, signing off, Chico Dude. See you guys tonight.